It is the future of naval aviation. The F-35C Lightning II, the Navy's version of the Joint Strike Fighter. And right now, it's being tested in the Atlantic Ocean on the Norfolk-based aircraft carrier Dwight D. Eisenhower.
The opportunity is I can't even describe it. It's a high point in my career to be able to come out and do that initial testing for an airplane that's going to stay around in the fleet for a long time.
News Channel 3 was aboard the Eisenhower Friday for the final day of flight operations for this segment of the testing. We watched as the F-35C was catapulted off the deck, flew over the ocean, and landed back on the carrier. For the test pilots establishing what will be the norms for this jet once it reaches the fleet, the job is both thrilling and also a great sense of duty.
Take that lightly. I mean, to think that like any things that we kind of complain about or things that we try to work on improving, it's going to affect guys for a long time. So I try to think of it as like when I first got out to the fleet in a Hornet, and be like, hey, these are the things I liked or didn't like, and you just kind of get used to them. It's like those impressions are going to come from what I do on the airplane.
If all goes well with testing the F-35C, the Navy hopes to have it operational within the fleet within the next 2 years. Aboard the USS Eisenhower in the Atlantic Ocean, Todd Carrillo, WGNT News.
Chloe Garcia loves shopping, especially for things pink and lavender. And if it has glitter, that's even better. Her mom describes her as an even-tempered little girl who rarely cried.
Very mellow child, would play by herself, well-rounded, happy little girl.
But last October, everything changed. Chloe and her family were doing something they did every year, lighting the Halloween pumpkin. It exploded, burning Chloe's face, neck, and arm. She spent weeks in the ICU.
The hospital was pretty tough. Just seeing how her skin looked, the scrapings they did. She had 12 surgeries.
That's 12 times she saw her baby undergoing anesthesia. And as hard as that was, it's just the start of a new reality for Chloe and her family.
It has changed her dramatically. Basically, what she does now is she cries all the time. Whether it's I've got to put her ointments on her face a couple of times a day, I'm constantly having to rub and massage her scars, to just not wanting to be touched, period.
Doctors told Mom Melanie that the best hope Chloe had to heal her scars would be to get a special plastic mask at the Shriners Hospital in Cincinnati, one of only a few places that makes them. We wanted to see how this special mask worked and how it could help Chloe recover. So we traveled with the family to Cincinnati, the only station invited to go along. Turns out, an extra hand proved useful as Chloe rarely left Melanie's arms.
Are you excited to see it? Yeah?
Her mom tells me Chloe's been very anxious about the mask and often cries when they talk about it. Tough medicine for a little girl who doesn't want her tender face touched.
How important is this?
Oh, it's probably the only treatment to smooth out the face scar.
And to smooth out the raised scars calls for a special skill set. A medical sculptor uses putty to take an impression of the patient's face. When it hardens, they scrape off the scars and then lay a piece of plastic over the mold of the child's face so it will fit tightly.
This is like really hard.
And uncomfortable. So trying to get a 5-year-old to wear it 22 hours a day might be challenging, but necessary, because without it,
the scars can distort her whole facial. It can pull the eyes down, it can pull her lips down. The scars are like pulling against her facial features. So the only treatment is really to put the pressure on and keep that face in good alignment.
And that's what Melanie is afraid of.
My hope is that she just is a normal little girl, and one day this is just a bad nightmare gone away.
As we're waiting to get her mask, Chloe's getting anxious and agitated.
Here's Miss Michelle. Okay.
Then a nurse brings her something very special.
It's an American Girl doll.
An American doll dressed in burn garments and a mask that looks very similar to the one Chloe's getting. But the closer we get to the fitting, Chloe gets more upset, and the doctors ask us to leave the room. After about 30 minutes, the tiny patient is back from the exam room.
Let's go back to the airport so we can go home.
Wearing her special mask.
It was definitely tough.
Chloe surprised everyone and wanted to keep the mask on.
When they took it off to readjust it, she didn't want him to take it off. She wanted to wear it. So she knows she's superhero Chloe. That's what we're going to call her. And she seems pretty happy.
And most superheroes do have a sidekick, and her name is Gracie.
So proud of you, Chloe. Good job. You are a superhero.
Jab, jab, 2, block 2.
Inside of Box and Go Gym in Norfolk, you'll find fighters training for their next rumble in the ring. But 61-year-old Price Dodson's opponent
Breathe, baby, jab, jab, 2.
isn't at the end of his jab.
I started developing a tremor in my right hand, which is my dominant hand. Certain movements would get slower, buttoning a cuff, things, small dexterous movement, and my handwriting was getting smaller.
About 2 years ago, doctors diagnosed Dodson with Parkinson's disease.
At first it looks like it's closing your life down, that doors are shutting, that things you wanted to do, you know you're probably not going to be able to.
It's the same disease that has chipped away at legendary boxer Muhammad Ali's mobility. Many have linked his condition to repeated head blows throughout his epic career.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So why does Dodson believe boxing will make him better?
I saw the piece on CBS Sunday Morning about the boxing, and I said, you know, that's so promising.
Ready? Boom! Come on.
Dodson's talking about this story on the Rocksteady Gyms based in Indianapolis. CBS News correspondent Leslie Stahl explains the gym specializes in non-contact boxing to tackle the effects of Parkinson's disease. Punches to lengthen and strengthen muscles, quick foot movement to combat shuffling. The researcher who conducted the first major study on boxing therapy says there's promise behind the punches.
We studied people over a 2-year period who participated in boxing, and we didn't see any progression of the disease in the people that boxed. In some cases, they were better after the 2-year period.
Good. You got it?
That's what Dodson and Box and Go owner and trainer Buddy Simpkins are betting on.
Slip, slip, duck. It warms the body up. It lengthens his muscles. When we do footwork, it helps with his balance. When he hits the bag, so it controls his tremors. I treat him just like any other boxer in the gym. Yeah, I'm not easy on nobody. Drop, 2, 3, 2. Good job, breathe.
And Dodson
12.
hangs in there,
1, 2,
of course
3,
staying clear of any
5,
head
6,
blows or
7,
serious
8,
body
9, 10,
contact.
11.
I don't want to hit anybody, and I certainly don't want anybody to hit me. So I still feel like a klutz, but it's a good klutz now. You know, it's a great workout.
A workout he believes is working when it comes to pausing Parkinson's progression.
This is something physical that, you know, I can get out here and I can do that I never thought I would do, I never thought about before. So it really is a positive way mentally as well as physically. I don't want to be known as the guy with Parkinson's. I'm Price Dodson, who has Parkinson's. That's just part of me, but it's not what defines me.
Good job. Good work, good work. Good work, brother.
The Colonial Parkway is one of the most scenic roads you'll take in Virginia, connecting Williamsburg, Jamestown, and Yorktown. But this winding road holds secrets. Secrets that have now been kept for 30 years. It was fall 1986. Kathy Thomas and her girlfriend, Becky Dowski, wound up dead just off the parkway. Kathy's brother Bill recently visited the crime scene for the first time.
I think it's a significant anniversary. I know we're one of the longest unsolved multiple homicides in the United States.
From 1986 to 1989, 3 couples were killed. A 4th is still missing, but presumed dead. They were stabbed or shot around the Williamsburg area. The killings have been dubbed the Colonial Parkway Murders. Kathy Thomas and Becky Dowski were the first victims. The two were out one October night in Kathy's car.
Unfortunately, something transpired. They were ultimately murdered. They were strangled with rope Their throats were cut from beyond ear to ear.
Thomas says authorities aren't sure where the murders happened, but Kathy and Becky's bodies were found in their car down this embankment behind me, closer to the York River.
It was very hard to understand the brutality of it and not just why it happened, but how it happened.
The Thomas family watched as murder after murder after murder happened. Are all 4 of these incidents related? That's been the subject of debate for decades. There are some similarities in the cases. All 4 involved couples.
The point has been made to me, Bill, what are the chances of 4 double homicides happening, in and around Williamsburg, Virginia over this 3-year period? And I have to agree, I think that's pretty unusual.
Thomas says he has hope forensic testing will produce new leads in the cases, and as we approach the 30th anniversary of his sister's killing, hopes he'll live to see the day someone is caught.
I think we're getting closer. I think we may have a day where we actually have a conversation to talk about how, an arrest has been made or suspects have been identified, or perhaps we could say someday that the Colonial Parkway murders have been solved.
But until then, the families wait, and the killer or killers continue to get away with it. Along the Colonial Parkway, Brendan Ponton, News 3.
Good shooting right there. I try to go to the range like 3-4 times a week.
More and more people like 21-year-old Emery Stewart are signing up for concealed carry classes. The co-owner at Bob's Gun Shop in Norfolk says over the last 3 months, they've seen a dramatic increase in the number of people enrolling in classes.
Do you carry a gun with you?
No, but I'm going to get me one.
They're scared that there'll be some action that will limit them from being able to get the guns.
Captain Joseph Willard will review your background check if you apply for a concealed handgun permit in Isle of Wight, and more applications are landing on his desk.
Normally we do probably 50 a month. Right now we're ranging between 80 and 100.
So why the increase? First, in October, Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe announced no guns allowed in state buildings and tightened gun regulations. Then in December, in a bold move, Attorney General Mark Herring said Virginia won't recognize 25 other states' concealed handgun permits starting February 1st. That decision was reversed and now won't take effect until March 1st. Meanwhile, lawmakers continue to debate what laws should be in place.
It seems like there's a new law. There's something new every week, it seems.
Right. So we wanted to know where you can and cannot bring your guns.
I didn't know so many rules and regulations.
The rules can be tough for some to understand.
I feel kind of confused.
Colleges and universities can determine whether or not they want firearms on their campuses. But all the ones in our area that I spoke with say guns are not allowed.
So you can't bring your gun on campus?
All weapons must be tied.
Did you know that?
No, not really.
When it comes to K through 12, no guns on school property unless you've got a concealed handgun permit and the concealed gun and yourself are in the vehicle in the parking lot. And absolutely no guns are allowed in the courthouse. And according to state law, you can't bring any dangerous weapons into a place of worship without good and sufficient reason. But what is a good and sufficient reason? The law, when it comes to guns and churches, is vague.
The question becomes, well, what constitutes good cause? And it's not defined in the statute.
If you own a legal handgun, you can openly carry it in many places, walking around with it exposed.
I struggled with the difference between open carry and concealed weapon.
But if you're on private property and asked to put your gun away, you're required to do so. Michael Williams says he likes to have his gun on his hip at all times. And if a business doesn't like it, then he won't go there.
6 or 7 months ago, I was asked to leave unless I was in uniform. I said, well, there are plenty of places I can eat shrimp.
And a business can hang a sign that looks like this, letting people know they don't want guns on their property. But the signs look different here in Virginia. From the courthouse to the post office to the liquor store and the airport. It's the same message, but with a different look. Some states have standard universal signs. Arizona's looks like this. A spokesperson from the Attorney General's office says they want to make it as clear as possible for the public if guns are not allowed in a particular business or area.
You really got to know your laws, because otherwise
you get arrested.
You can bring your gun into a bar or a restaurant and carry it openly. However, if you have a concealed handgun permit, you're not permitted to drink any alcohol. And guns are also allowed in most parks, unless you see a sign telling you otherwise.
To an individual who is not an expert in this field, it could be very confusing.
It can be confusing, especially if you're like so many in the state who are getting a gun for the first time. But the experts say understanding your gun and your rights will help you no matter where you are. I'm Margaret Kavanaugh, News Channel 3.
I'm Nadine Yanis in the Outer Banks, where the sandbags are starting to show underneath dunes as these winds and the ocean slowly starts to strip them away. Powerful winds kick up sand in the Outer Banks, leaving a foggy hue over this popular stretch of NC 12 and leaving a dramatic drop-off just inches from the road. Due to these ferocious Atlantic waves slowly stripping away the dunes.
When the ocean decides it wants to be fierce. It's fierce. It's very fierce right now.
Marcia Smith has been coming to the Outer Banks all of her life and now owns a house in Kitty Hawk, right on the other side of NC 12. A road she's seen collapse before her eyes due to erosion just like this.
For the people that own property up and down Kitty Hawk Beach, it's very concerning.
It happened in the same stretch of NC 12 near the Black Pelican restaurant back in May. News Channel 3 was there as crews took action to repair it. Then NCDOT says they were back again in August to build a permanent dune supported by sandbags that are exposed today.
But you can tell what high tide has done to it. You can see all the exposed sandbags. There weren't that many exposed yesterday.
However, a spokesperson for NCDOT says at this point the sandbags are doing their job, and crews patrolling up and down the highway today haven't seen any overwash.
I have very strong faith that what they did in July is going to hold. I really, really do.
But just in case, NCDOT crews will be on standby, patrolling the coast, keeping an eye on the roads and erosion as this coastal storm comes closer. In the Outer Banks, Nadine Yanis, WGNT News. I'm Nadine Yanis in Virginia Beach, where people are taking the risk driving through high waters in the Bay Colony neighborhood. This is just one of many trouble spots we found today. Another unrelenting rainy day in Virginia Beach forced this father to use a kayak as a mode of transportation to pick up his son from daycare today.
Oh, it's not that big a deal, honestly. It's fun.
Fun? Well, maybe just until he gets to his Lynn Haven Colony home, where a flooded garage waits for him.
As long as everything's cleaned up in the garage, I'll be a happy guy.
This dad staying positive while Virginia Beach Public Works spokesman Drew Langford tries not to sound negative.
Don't want to sound like the pessimist, but if Joaquin comes any closer, it gets worse.
But Joaquin isn't even close. This is just a lingering front bringing pounding rain and winds and causing a mess on Virginia Beach roads.
It's a tough day out there today.
News Channel 3 drove all around Virginia Beach, getting a look at the trouble spots for flooding. And the worst was closer to the water, just blocks from crashing waves on Chesapeake Bay and Chicks Beach, and in underwater neighborhoods like Lynn Haven Colony and Bay Colony.
At least right now, the immediate threat in front of us is just this front that's over us. It's going to just really, we're saturated already. It's going to super saturate us over the next couple days.
Keeping city officials occupied with their eyes still on where Joaquin decides to go.
We could end up taking another 2 days of this kind of weather, depending on what the storm does. So we're not taking our eyes off Joaquin. We're keeping a close eye on it, but we've just got immediate situation in front of us that we have to deal with.
In Virginia Beach, Nadine Yanis, WGNT News. There's no question football players take hard hits. It's been called America's most dangerous game, but the danger hits home for more than just NFL players.
He came from behind me and slammed me on the ground, and my head hit the ground.
Lawrence Anderson was in 7th grade when he was hit hard enough to cause a concussion.
Everything was a blur. I didn't know what I was doing or where I was.
For Anderson, it's only happened once. But as more and more NFL players talk about the devastating effects of hit after hit, it's tough for parents to hear.
It's a little scary because you don't want your son to grow up and have mental issues.
So what can be done to make kids safer?
Can we change practice? Can we change the games? Can we make better equipment?
That's what researchers like Dr. Stefan Duma are trying to figure out. The Virginia Tech professor just started a 5-year, $3 million study to track kids starting at age 9. One thing they're looking at, their helmets.
Right now, youth football helmets are basically adult football helmets with a little different material.
The problem is kids' heads are disproportionately large compared to their necks and bodies.
There's very little musculature. They can't resist that impact. So the same force to the head ends up with a larger acceleration than the adult counterpart.
Helmets are just part of the equation, though.
It's not all about the equipment. It's about how you coach and how you play.
There have been some changes in recent years, like the way kids tackle for one, but those jarring hits can still happen, and it's making some parents question whether they should even be letting their kids play football at all. Crystal Chandler's 14-year-old son has played for years, but now she's wondering if she should let her 6-year-old follow in his footsteps.
I'm afraid for him to play football because of all of the concussion stories that's going on right now. So maybe one day he'll be able to play, but right now I'm not so sure.
So what should parents do?
Well, that's a great question and a tough question.
Dr. Joel Brenner, director of CHKD's Sports Concussion Program, says it's not a black and white answer.
There's a lot of benefits from sports. We want kids to be physically active. We don't want them to be just sitting at home. And it's really a personal decision.
And it's not as easy as just having them play another sport.
A lot of parents will say, well, I'm going to not let my kid play football. That's not the solution, because there's concussions in hockey, there's concussions in wrestling, there's concussions in soccer and basketball, on all the sports.
We actually see more cheerleaders during the fall than we do football players.
People who love the game say football can be dangerous, but they're working to make it safer because it's worth it to keep playing.
Greatest sport in the world. These kids are learning so much about so much in life, from the discipline, the structure, and we teach life lessons, and we use the game of football to teach them those.